Guess who's back? Welcome to another exciting episode of Submission Radio. It's October 5th. Dennis Scrout of Kasper Zalowski here, and we are back after a 2-week layoff. It feels like it's been a long time. We've missed you guys, and it's good to be back.
You hit the nail right on the head. We have absolutely missed you guys, and it has been a long time. We feel like we've been incarcerated. No submission radio, no way to talk about MMA. So many things have happened since then. UFC 178, Mark Hunt scoring a beautiful knockout, Battlegrounds MMA. We've just had a massive week, and man, it's good to be able to be here and chat to you guys about it. Let's rattle off some guests. We wouldn't come here empty-handed. We're like your favorite uncle. We come down. When we see you, we bring gifts. And today's gifts are, of course, Dennis Bermudez. The man's on a big, sexy streak. One of the best featherweights in the UFC. We got him on the show. He's always fun. Al Iaquinta, the man's matchup, just got announced with Ross Pearson at UFC Sydney. By the way, that card is freaking stacked. We're going to have him on the show, hot off the press. And someone who's always hot on the press, we've got Cris Cyborg. We're going to have her on the show, the first official lady that we've had on Submission Radio. And I'm excited. What about you, Dennis?
Yeah, I know. Anything can happen. This is the first lady that's come on Submission Radio. What does that say about us? What, we're not the sexiest guys in MMA anymore? There's someone sexier out there. So it's good to have Cris Cyborg on there, and I guess she breaks the precedent. You know, it's no longer just a boys' club.
Yeah,
girls are welcome as well.
I don't know where these ladies are going to. I don't know who they're flocking to. Can't say I'm not completely unhurt, but I'm happy that Cyborg's coming the show. I'm happy that she's taking the time. We've got a jam-packed show. I mean, we're going to get somewhat nostalgic. We're going to be talking about UFC Halifax. We're going to be talking about UFC Stockholm. We're going to go back in time like Pitbull, and we're going to be talking about UFC 178, Stoolgate, Wanderlei, he retired. We're going to be talking about that as well. Some other stuff happened. I was going to mention Mark Hunt, and speaking of Mark Hunt, the boys are coming back to town. There's actually going to be a big, sexy appearance. If you're in Melbourne or Sydney, consider yourselves blessed. Kyle Noak, Mark Hunt, Cowboy Cerrone, and Alexander Gustafsson are coming to town. They're going to be in Melbourne and Sydney. In Melbourne on the 15th of October and the 16th of October. Seminar at Hammer's Gym and an appearance at the MMA Fight Store in the new location. And then in Sydney on the 18th and 19th of October at the Sydney Showground in Olympic Park. It's going to be absolutely awesome. We're going to be telling you about that a little bit later. But if you want any more information or get tickets, get on it because they're selling out pretty quickly. Everything MMA.com.au or MMAFightStore.com.au. It's going to be awesome. You can do a seminar and you can have dinner with the guys.
Yeah, that's right. It's going to be absolutely amazing. And, you know, MMA Fight Store, they've actually moved to a new location, Shop 1/440 Elizabeth Street, Melbourne. Check this store out. They always have a lot of fun stuff, Cass. You know, you and me have done a number of interviews there. So if you're in Melbourne, drop around, say hello. They love talking MMA. They love it when you just drop by and start chatting about what's happening in MMA. It's like a bar. It's like Cheers, but there's no alcohol, but they'll still talk about stuff with you. There's no stool, but I feel like if there was, people would just sit there and discuss things like their life, MMA, and then their life again. So, guys, make sure you check out this new location.
Yeah, if they had stools there, you or me would be there probably like for the next 40 years. We'd be like those old guys in barbershops talking about like Rocky Marciano and stuff. We'd be like, that Alexander Gustafsson, and then some other guy would be like, John Jones. Anyway, check that out, guys. Mad appearance. We've got a lot to get through, so we might as well get straight into it. And I believe our first guest is waiting patiently, sitting on the line. Let's get to it.
Our next guest is coming in on a 7-fight win streak, beating Clay. They're now facing Ricardo Lamas at UFC 180. Ladies and gentlemen, we have none other than the man with the best first name in MMA, Dennis Bermudez. Welcome to Submission Radio.
Whoop, whoop. What's up, guys?
You know, it's really good to have you back, Mr. Bermudez. We're excited about your big fight. Let's talk about that. You're going to be facing Ricardo Lamas at UFC 180, Velasquez Werdum. Let's talk about your initial reaction. What was the first thing that went through your mind when you heard that you'll be fighting one of the biggest cards of the year?
Oh man, I was pretty excited about that because I already fought on the Fox card, which is pretty big, and then this is equally as big, if not bigger. So I told him about, man. I'm about fighting on fucking big cards and beating people up and showcasing.
Well, you know, when it comes to showcasing, there's nothing better than doing, you know, the first UFC card in Mexico. So tell us, how does it feel knowing that you're going to be a part of history, and how do you feel about fighting in Mexico?
Oh man, I'm excited about it, man. I like knowing that, you know, somewhere in a hardcover book, my name will be written, you know, and that, you know, in the history, people can look me up and they'll be able to see that, you know, who fought, you know, the first card in Mexico, the UFC was, you know, who was on that card, and my name's going to be on that list.
Yeah, it absolutely will be, and hopefully that book has a nice leather bounding on it. Now, let's talk about your opponent, Ricardo Lamas. He's a tough guy. How do you see this fight going, and what holes do you see in his game for you to take advantage of?
Yeah, Ricardo is for sure a tough guy. Pretty much, I just plan on doing to him what I try to do to everybody. You know, get a guy's face, get him tired, and make him realize that I'm bringing the fight in all aspects of MMA. You know, wrestling. I'm gonna be, you know, jiu-jitsu. I've tapped people out. I can box. I can kickbox. You know, let's do it, man.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned recently that the pressure is all on Ricardo Lamas, UFC 180. You know, what do you feel like the pressure is all on him for this one?
He's a higher-ranked guy. On paper, he's supposed to win. So he's got to meet that standard. For me, I'm supposed to lose. So I got nothing to lose. I just go in there, I just have fun and get after it.
Well, Ricardo's obviously going to be the hometown favorite, you know, in terms of the crowd. You know, how does that make you feel? Despite being a very likable guy, which you are, you may get booed. You know, does that motivate you?
I really don't care. I've fought, you know, throughout my career. I've fought in other guys' hometowns. I've come out to the booths and stuff like that. It's just like, it makes the victory a little bit more sweet, you know? Like, shh, guys, quiet down. You guys are booing me before. Now it's my turn. Now you guys be quiet and just accept this loss.
Accept the beating. Now, you know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but surely if you beat Ricardo Lamas, they'll make it 8 fights in a row, an 8-fight win streak, which is amazing, especially in the UFC in the sport. Now, if you beat the last guy who fought for the title, do you think that puts you as the #1 contender for the title?
1,000%. You know, I mean, that puts me up there with John Jones and Chris Weidman in the highest win streaks in the UFC, and both those guys are champions. So why not let me join them? I'd be a champion with those guys.
Well, you know what?
Makes sense to me.
It's a really good point, because I know last time you were on the show, you were sort of a little bit like, look, you know, I'm just seeing how it goes. I think we'll see how we go after the Clay Guida fight. But now you're very assertive. You say 1,000%. And honestly, we couldn't agree with you more. The thing is, in the UFC, you know, sometimes it happens that a guy has a title shot or seems close to one, like, say, an Alexander Gustafsson, and then a curveball gets thrown in, and they have to fight again. Now, Conor McGregor, he's another guy who is sure that he'll be fighting for the title soon. If the UFC decided to book you guys, or for, say, you versus him for a #1 contender spot, would that bother you at all, considering your streak?
No. I'll beat him up, and then I get my title shot.
Well, you know, that would probably be an ideal scenario in a lot of people's heads, because I feel like Conor rubs a lot of people the wrong way. However, you know, Dana White came out this week and said he believes that Conor's going to be the next guy to possibly get that shot. And I'm just wondering, from your perspective, you know, a guy that's on an amazing streak, you know, do you think it's right that Conor skips the queue and just jumps straight to the top just because, you know, he's had a couple of dominant fights?
I mean, it's bullshit, yeah. But, I mean, I'm just trying to stick with what I'm good at, you know, and right now it's focused on the guy in front of me and just worrying about this one win, you know. And if I keep winning, the belt is going to land right across my lap. And I've been going about this technique, and it's not really working for me, you know. And I'm still over here fighting on co-main events and stuff like that. But I mean, it will come, you know. But I'm working on it. I'm getting a little bit more vocal, and yeah, like, to answer your question, it's annoying, but I mean, fuck him, you know, I don't give a shit. I'll get my shot, whether it's beating him up and then get the shot, or I get the shot right away.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know that when it was a really exciting moment in your last fight, you beat Clay Guida, you put on a spectacular performance, absolutely shut him down. You really made a statement. Me and Dennis were sitting there, we're like, he's getting on the mic, and then you remained, polite, and you remained the ever gentleman in your post-fight speech. And I mean, obviously, you've earned that spot after your performances. But do you sometimes feel like if you talked more trash, you might get that title shot sooner?
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, I'm not trying to be rude, and I'm just answering Joe Rogan's, questions. And before I could be like, but, I got something I want to say. He's like, all right, Dennis, thank you. And I'm gonna say, it's like, shit, I should. Like, I guess when he hands the mic over to me, he just gotta be like, all right, Joe Rogan, I know what you just said, but here's what I gotta say.
Yeah.
So I guess it's safe to assume that, if the fight goes to plan against Ricardo Lamas at UFC 180, you might be ripping the mic out of his hands after the fight to make a bit of a statement.
Yeah, there's a great chance about that. Unless he's got some kind of kung fu death grip.
Which he might. He might have that.
Then I'll just double up on it and get it from him.
Joe Rogan's hands are huge. He just basically does CrossFit all day. So, yeah, no, he's crazy. I wanted to ask you just one more thing on Conor McGregor. A lot of people have been talking about the hype train. Is he the real deal, etc.? He beat Dustin Poirier just last weekend. A lot of people have remained on the Conor McGregor bandwagon. As a fighter, you obviously have a lot better perspective than guys like us who don't fight. What are your thoughts on Conor after his performance? And do you believe he's as good as he says he is?
Yeah, for sure. He's definitely tough. He's got good hands. Who knows what his ground game is like? Who knows what his endurance is like? Those are two aspects that I possess personally that I haven't seen him get exposed in that department. So, so far he's been walking the walk, talking talk, walking the walk.
Mm-hmm.
So, to be the top 5 guy, what can you really say? And he knocked him out in the first round. Like, all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really don't try to dwell on this shit because I really don't give a shit about Conor McGregor.
Yeah, absolutely, Dennis. And I guess the thing with Conor is he gets in everybody's mind before the fight, and I think that's what happened to Dustin. And just one final thing on Conor: if you do ever end up meeting with him, do you think any of that mental game will affect you going into it? Because he seemed like a very strong-minded individual, and I think that's probably what that fight streak has to do with it, because he's so mentally strong along with physically. So do you think any of that trash talk might affect you going into one?
Not a chance. I've thought about it a little bit, because the day will come when we have to square up, and I'll probably just smile on his face and just be a gentleman, and just kind of kill him with kindness. And then when it's time to go in the ring, he's gonna kind of be like, oh man, I can't get this guy. How am I actually gonna get to this guy? Where I'll be unfazed by that, and if someone was talking to me in the ring and trying to, clown me in the ring, I'm going to put my head in the middle of your chest and fucking give you air miles to the other side of the cage.
Air miles, love it. Now, I want to talk to you about something, Dennis, right? Speaking of air miles, you're all the way, near New York. We're here in Victoria, Melbourne, but we've got a bit of an issue that I think you may be able to relate to, because here in Victoria, MMA is legal. Unfortunately, the cage is not. So at the moment, you can have local MMA shows. You cannot have a UFC event at the moment because the politicians don't believe that MMA in a cage is safer. And obviously in New York, you guys have a similar deal where MMA is just not legal at all, which basically sucks for everybody. In case we ever speak to any politicians in the future, can you tell us a little bit about, the whole MMA not being legal in certain parts, and why, maybe a few reasons why it should be, maybe some of the benefits that the MMA would bring to, a place like New York or a place like Victoria?
It's really it comes down to money and stuff like that. The Fertitas brothers run a tight ship out in Las Vegas with the Palace casinos, and the Culinary Institute wants to get unionized. And so they're trying to hurt the Fertittas' pocket by coming to New York and paying off legislators to not get it legalized. Kind of what it comes down to a little bit. Because I mean, I've gone with Lorenzo Fertitta and Dana White and some other local New York MMA guys, and we've gone down to Albany to lobby and stuff like that, and none of their points are stronger than ours. You know, it's just like, I mean, it's crazy. And it's unfortunate, you know. It sucks. I originally started fighting my MMA career in Pennsylvania, and there it's legal, you know. So a lot of my friends and family, you know, from Pennsylvania were able to come to my fights, you know, in my own backyard, and it was nice, you know. And I think now that I live in New York that I can't get the same thing.
Well, that's the thing, exactly. I mean, you know, guys like yourself and John Jones and, you know, even Chris Weidman, heaps of guys from, you know, the Big Apple, you guys obviously, you know, fantastic MMA fighters, but you can't even have a fight in your hometown, which sucks. Much like here in Victoria, you know, we're obviously avid MMA fans, but we can't have you know, the UFC come down to our local backyard. We got to go to Sydney, which there's nothing wrong with because we like Sydney. Just, you know, in terms of a fighter's perspective, our deal here is obviously we can't have a cage. It's not legal. You can do it in a ring, which is obviously dangerous. From a fighter's perspective, can you know, explain, maybe if a politician's listening, why it should be in a cage and what the benefits are, maybe why it makes it safer?
There's actually a highlight tape on the internet of me inside tripping Shannon Gergety, who fought in the UFC a few times, through the ropes of a ring onto the announcer tables.
Wow.
Jesus.
That was in a Shine fight in, man, that was back in like 2010 maybe, out in Oklahoma on an Indian reservation, and it was unfortunate because the guy, I would like to think it was because I was punching him in the head and stuff like that, but it's probably because he fell on his head, but he got a concussion after the fight.
Jesus.
You know, it was in between rounds. So I mean the refs do their best, you know, when MMA fighters are fighting in a ring to prevent them from falling out of the ring, but I mean, it's not, it's definitely not guaranteed, you know. And then, you know, there's been other, I've fought twice in a ring and it was awful. There's been situations where, you know, if you watching my MMA fights, like, I like to get a guy up against a cage and ground and pound him while he's curled up against the cage. In a ring, you can't do that. You start to go off the thing. The ref stops you, stops the clock, makes you recenter in the middle of the ring, and you try to replicate the position that you were just in, and then he goes, go. Or, you know, guys are trying to advance and, you know, get guillotines a little tighter or, you know, almost get out, you know, and it's just not the same look.
Absolutely. Some great points there, Dennis. Now, Dennis, before we let you go, we have to do the world-famous submission radio tap-out round. Now, that you know slouch at this and you've done this before, basically you throw a whole bunch of questions at you, and you go with the first thing that comes to mind. So are you ready?
Sure am.
All right, here we go. The first one, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. Which one do you choose?
Batman, Superman, what was it?
Spider-Man.
Oh, I'm going to go Spider-Man.
All right. Movember update. Will you be growing one out?
Will I be growing one out what?
You know, Movember. Like, I'm not sure what you guys call it in America. Mustache November. We call it Movember here, where everyone grows mustaches for.
Oh, Movember.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, no.
No, why not?
Maybe after my fight, I'll start.
All right. How come you're not growing one? Doesn't go with the look?
No, I'm going with a new clean cut, you know, professional look these days. You know, I had the long hair, the scruff before.
Yeah.
Totally did a 180 on them.
All right.
I see. A sneaky speed mustache always helps in a fight. Now, for those who haven't been to Mexico, and assuming that you've been there, what's the best thing about visiting Mexico?
The colorful frozen drinks.
Yeah, no doubt. Those will probably have to wait till post-fight. You're up in a karaoke bar. What song are you singing, and who will you be singing with?
I'm too sexy
Mm-hmm.
with my jiu-jitsu coach, Greg Pasquale.
Not Pat Cummins?
Well, the thing is, I'm too sexy. Me and my jiu-jitsu coach have actually performed this act on, 2 or 3 occasions. And we've got it pretty, like I'll be doing like a catwalk dance while he's, dancing. Usually my shirt comes off, swings over out of my head. We go hard.
You guys are running a tight ship over there. Now, do you think that there are llamas living in the Bermuda Triangle?
What do I think of him living in the Bermuda Triangle?
No. Do you think there are llamas living in the Bermuda Triangle, like the animal llama?
Oh. If they are, they're lost.
Good answer. Dennis, if you could be any size and any weight, you jump into a machine, it transports you, become any weight class, which would you choose?
Oh, man, I would totally be a heavyweight.
Yep.
Oh, man, that would be awesome. Now, if the ultimate girls' night out anthem is the classic Cyndi Lauper, girls just want to have fun, what's the ultimate guys' night out anthem?
Probably Back That Ass Up by Juvenile.
Yes. Now, Dennis, hoping you're a Seinfeld fan to get this. There's a box of raisins sitting on Dana White's desk, and you really enjoy raisins. Do you take the raisins with you and act like you never took the raisins, or do you take a handful of raisins and go out and buy your own?
I'd be like, hey, Dana, I'm gonna take some of these. I wouldn't steal them. That's the stereotyping.
Yeah.
And now, Dennis, finally, how are you planning on beating Ricardo Lamas at UFC 180?
In a dominating fashion, just probably a Mortal Kombat. I reach in, take his heart out, rip it out, it's still beating in my hand.
Wow, fatality. Will you yell Kali Ma like the dude in Indiana Jones?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait. UFC 180, guys. It's November 15th at an arena that I unfortunately cannot pronounce because it is in Mexico. Check it out on pay-per-view. In Australia, it's going to be November 15th, of course, during the time difference. And you can follow Dennis Bermudez on Twitter at Menace Bermudez. Dennis, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show again. You're welcome anytime. Good luck in your fight.
Thank you. All right, guys. Take care.
This is Randy Couture, and you're listening to Submission Radio.
All right, guys, our next guest is surging lightweight Al Iaquinta from the UFC. He's here today on Submission Radio. Al, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. How are you going today?
It's good. It's a pleasure to be on. Thank you.
The pleasure is all ours. Now, let's get to it. Your latest fight just got announced. You'll be facing Ross Pearson in lovely Sydney, Australia on November the 8th. What were your first thoughts on the fight and knowing that you'll be fighting in Australia?
I had just gotten to, when I found out about the fight, I had just gotten here in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I'm doing the guest fighter thing here this week, so I'm just kind of hanging out, watching the fights, meeting with some of the fans and stuff. I landed here, and I got a phone call from my manager. He said, there's an opportunity for a co-main event spot against Ross Pearson. Do you want it? And I was like, dude, fly me home right now. I got to start training. He said, stick it out, hang out with the, fulfill your obligations up there in Halifax and, get the best training in you can while you're up there. And then when you get back home, really, hit it hard. And, there was no hesitation. It was just an opportunity like this presents itself in this game. You got to take it for sure.
Now, you've only fought once outside of the US, which was in England against Holman. And, a lot of guys hate fighting outside of their country. Others love to travel. We're just wondering, what's it like fighting outside of the States for you? And are you prepared for the long, long flight over to Down Under for your big fight?
I don't know if I'm prepared. I guess I've never been on a plane that long. I've been to Russia, which was 10 hours. I fought in Mexico before as an amateur. So I've fought outside of the country, and like you said, in Manchester. I'm just gonna go out a little earlier. I think I didn't go out early enough in Manchester. I'll go out a little earlier, maybe a week or more, so I can get acclimated and everything. And I'm definitely one of the kind of guys that loves to travel, and I feel like this sport has given me a great opportunity to travel around and see places that I never would see if it wasn't for fighting. So definitely take advantage of it.
Now, it's interesting that you mentioned you fought in Mexico as an amateur. I personally didn't know that. Obviously, the UFC is going to Mexico for UFC 180. Tell us a little bit about what that was like. What was it like fighting in Mexico? Anything? What were the differences about fighting in the States?
Man, this is probably in like 2007. It was a long time ago. It was pretty crazy. Actually, Hector Urbina, who was on this last season of The Ultimate Fighter, he was one of the headliners of the show. So it was pretty crazy. They loved fighting down there. No one on the show had a name, so they didn't know who any of us were. It was a bunch of guys from the U.S. that went down and they put on a show down there. It was something special. It was in Arena Monterrey, which I'm guessing there was probably like 10,000 people there, and they went crazy. It was cool. So I definitely, in the future would love to fight down there again.
Absolutely. Now, a lot of casual fans may not know this, but you actually came through The Ultimate Fighter. You were in the finale there. I was just wondering, before we get to Ross, just let's talk a little bit about your experience in The Ultimate Fighter. A lot of people say it's one of the most difficult experiences of their life, and everybody always learns something from it. So I'm just wondering, how was the experience for you, and what did you learn from it all?
The experience was awesome. The guy, I really hate when the guys say, "Oh, we'll never do it again." It's like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do in your life? You want to be you want to work in an office job or something? I want to be a fighter, so I want to eat, sleep, and train. That's I was given the opportunity to do that. For 3 months straight. It was 13 weeks. It was the longest one. And when these guys complain about 6 weeks, I get real mad. And no, it irks me real bad. But no, it was awesome. I made so many great connections with people all over the world. Uriah Faber, I've been out to. He was my coach on the season, so I've been out to his gym and trained with all his guys. I made some great friends with those guys, and I've learned so much from so many different people. It was really a life-changing experience. The fighting 3 times in 3 weeks, I fought, quarters, semis, and finals all a week apart. That was a little rough and definitely something I don't think, it might have hurt me a little bit, as the tournament went on. But, that aside, everything was real cool, man. It was a great experience. I missed my family, but, they were still there when I got back. So it was a great experience.
Awesome. Now, looking forward, your opponent, Ross Pearson, he's a veteran, also came from The Ultimate Fighter. He prefers the stand-up. How do you see this fight going? What are some of the holes in Ross's game that you think you can expose?
I think he has, just a real basic technical boxing game, and he's powerful. So he lands hard shots. I'm going to have to have good defense, move my head, and then mix it up, kicks, body, head, everything. If the takedown presents itself, put him on his back and, just really get on him and get after it. Show everybody that I deserve to be in there. I think, a lot of people might be questioning why he's fighting me, but I know he's not questioning it. He knows, when I was on The Ultimate Fighter, I fought his teammate, Miles Jury, and I'm sure he talked to Miles, and Miles told him. I know he definitely knows that I'm nothing to take lightly. So he's in for a good fight.
Absolutely. Now, you've won 4 of your last 5 fights since The Ultimate Fighter. I'm just wondering, where does a win over Ross Pearson put you in the ultra competitive lightweight division? I mean, you've obviously had some great fights, but this is probably one of the biggest fights of your career.
It puts me right up there. It's my last 5 fights. I people say, "Oh, when's your next fight?" I tell them who I'm. They go, "Who you fighting?" I go, whoever I'm fighting. They go, "Oh, who's that? What's his style? What's his what?" I have to explain. "Oh, he's a ground guy. This is his name." I have to kind of explain my opponent to them. This fight, I don't have to do that. I'm here in Halifax, and all the people are coming up to me, and they, "When's your next fight?" I go, "Oh, it's next month." Who are you fighting? Ross Pearson. Oh man, that's a great fight. So they know, they know who he is, and he's he's a name in the sport, so it'll put me up there for sure.
I also just wanted to ask you, because this is a rather quick sort of turnaround for a fight. You actually made a really good point. It's 5th of October here in Australia, and obviously you're going to be fighting on November the 8th, so you've got about a month. How do you feel about that preparation time to fight Ross Pearson?
I think it's going to be perfect for me. Usually, I have like 8 weeks for a fight, and by the 5 weeks into it, it's like, geez, where is this fight already? I'm in shape. I'm ready to go. Can we just do this already? And I have to get the last 2 weeks, which are usually the hardest 2 weeks, and I'm almost like burnt out at that point. So I think this is going to be good. It's going to be like 3 hard weeks. I'm already in pretty good shape. I never left the gym after that last fight, so get right back into it. 3 hard weeks, travel, and get in there, and it'll be I'll be really itching to fight. There will be no those last 2 weeks, which kind of sucked. That I think this is gonna be perfect. And Ray Longo agreed with me. He said, "Oh man, this is gonna be great. This is perfect for you because like I said, we hit that mark, and everything kind of slows down."
Now, in a way, people have sort of overlooked you in the UFC because you're a very humble fighter. You let your fighting do the talking for you. I'm just wondering if everything goes to plan in Sydney. Obviously, all eyes will be on you in the co-main event. Could we expect you to grab the mic after the event and really let people know what you want afterwards? Do you expect to, speak out a bit more after the fight? Obviously, all the cameras and people's eyes will be on you.
Who knows, man? I have no idea what I'm going to do after the fight. We'll see. I'm not even really thinking about that. I'm just thinking about the fight, going in there. I think if I go in there and I make a statement, I don't need to do any trash talking or calling people out. But if there's someone that wants to fight, and they someone says something or whatever, I have no problem calling them out and try to get what I want.
We're gonna start texting people and instigating things out so that people start calling you out and you get more fights after this. But in all seriousness,
bring it on. Let's go. I'm not scared.
In all seriousness, though, you're gonna be in Sydney. We got a lot of beautiful beaches. Assuming all goes well, you beat Ross. Will we see you hit up a beautiful beach and do some surfing?
You will definitely see. I started surfing like 2 years ago. When I was on the Ultimate Fighter, I wanted to surf. I grew up on Long Island, so. I grew up on the beach. I was boogie boarding my whole life, and then for some reason I wanted to surf. I had knee surgery. I couldn't surf, but the last 2 years I've been surfing, and I'm getting pretty good. So you'll see me on a surfboard for sure. And I want to check out. They have the great whites you can swim with down there with the not swim with, but in the cage.
I don't know if it's great whites. I mean, you can definitely swim with sharks.
No, not swim with them in the cage. You go in the cage with them. Is that Australia?
Correct. Yes.
And kangaroos and koala bears, but they go up high in the octagon.
You can do it. You can do it in the aquarium, but it's probably a bit more risky. I don't know how the UFC's gonna feel.
I thought you could go in the cages with them.
Oh no, you can. You can do it in
Africa.
Like in Melbourne here, you can do it in the cage. If you go to like Sydney, I'm not sure if you can do it in Sydney.
No, I'm not swimming with them open water. I'm not crazy like that.
No, you can definitely do the cage.
Oh, let's do it. I'm doing that for sure. That's on my bucket list of things to do for sure. Yeah, we're gonna film it and everything. Alex raging out swimming with the sharks.
Nice.
Now, Al, obviously you come from a fantastic training camp in Team Cerro Longo. Just for everybody back here in Australia that have heard so many great things about the camp, tell us, what's it like training there, and what's a typical day like for you, a typical training day, let's say, for you at the Team Cerro Longo camp?
Ray and Matt have 2 separate gyms. So, usually I'm doing my jiu-jitsu in the afternoons at Sarah's, and at night I'm doing my kickboxing, stand-up wrestling over at Ray's. And, it's a real cool environment. Everyone's real cool. Ray and Matt, they keep it fun. There's never a day where I go into the gym and come out without laughing and having a good time. So definitely, Matt, he's hysterical. You go into training and it's awesome. It's like a comedy scene, but when you get on the mat and it's time to put in work, he knows how to, it's work time, and we get the work in. and then after we're done training, it's it's light and it's fun again. So it's really a pleasure to train with those guys day in and day out. They've given me some of the best advice that I could ask for. They've been in so many situations in this game. They've been in the game for so long, probably since I was born. So they have that much experience. They know they've been in every situation. I trust them, whatever advice they give me. So it's great for me.
Awesome. Now, speaking of, obviously, training camp and your training partners, one of your training partners, Chris Weidman, recently had a bit of a setback. He injured his hand, and the fight with Vitor Belfort is now delayed till next year. What was your reaction like at the team when this happened?
I haven't even spoke to him. He was in California getting it taken care of, and I had just left for Halifax, so there wasn't I didn't really get to talk to him. But I mean, Chris he's a tough guy. I'm sure it was a real problem for him to have to set back the fight, and he's got his goals set to get after Vitor and put it on him, and I don't doubt for a second that he's going to do it.
Now, Al, before you come down to Australia for one of the biggest fights of your career, we've got one of the most talked about segments in radio right now. It's called the Submission Radio Tap Out Round. Basically, we throw some crazy questions at you, and we want you to answer with the first thing that comes to your mind, sort of like a word association.
Uh-oh. All right, let's do it.
I don't know if they're crazy, but they're pretty fun, all right? So, first question, favorite meal when you're not in training camp, Al?
Favorite meal when I'm not in training camp. Does ice cream cake count as a meal?
Absolutely. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I'll just down the whole thing right then and there.
Now, have you ever had a pasta eating contest with Matt Serra before?
No, that wouldn't go good for me.
What's your go-to move in training?
Go-to move in training? I can't give those secrets out, man. Ross Pearson might be listening right now.
Yeah, he probably is. He's sneaky.
Now, if you win an MMA
Ross, I'm not going to give up my secrets to you, bro.
Maybe
find out on November 8th.
Now, if you were an MMA fighter, what do you think you'd be doing right now?
I'd probably be a phys ed teacher. Okay. I think I was in the process of doing that when I found mixed martial arts, and well, this is a quick thing. You don't want the whole story. Next question. Let's go.
All right, what's one of your favorite movies of all time?
Favorite movies of all time? I like Goodfellas. Goodfellas is one of my favorites.
It's prediction time. You spoke about your time over training with Uriah Faber at Team Alpha Male. We want your prediction. Chad Mendes versus Jose Aldo. Who's winning that one?
Chad Mendes. I think he's going to take it this time for sure.
Wow. Now, here's a fun question. There's been a lot of famous Italian Americans over the years. Now, we want to know which of the following do you identify with most? We've got Rocky Balboa, we've got Super Mario, and we've got Paulie D.
Oh man, I'm gonna go with Rocky. I hope.
All right, yeah, I know it's a tough one. I know between Paulie D and Super Mario, but yeah, we figured Rocky Balboa.
Now, obviously you train out of New Jersey, and there's that saying that goes,
New York. What?
Oh well, okay. Well, you train out of New York then.
That's
is that bad.
I know that's like swearing at someone if you confuse Jersey and New York.
A bit of a put down there. I'm sorry about that, Al. No, you're from New York, of course. Not Jersey. But what's the best thing about being from New York and training there?
The best thing is during the summer, man. You're in the summer. You're like 40 minutes from Manhattan, and you're 20 minutes from the beach. So you got the best of both worlds. And the summer on Long Island, New York, is really, really special. Great outdoor workouts. You're running in the sand and working out. It's awesome.
Awesome. And finally, Al, how are you beating Ross Pearson November 8th at UFC Fight Night 55 in Sydney, Australia?
Knockout. Going for that knockout.
Wow, awesome. Can't wait to watch it. Guys, you can follow Al Iaquinta on Twitter at Al Iaquinta, ALIAQUINTA. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Al, and good luck in your fight.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, guys.
This is heavyweight Stipe Miocic, and you're listening to Submission Radio.
All right, guys, our next guest is one of the most deadly women in all of mixed martial arts. She is the current Invicta featherweight champion. She is the former Strikeforce featherweight champion, and she is today on Submission Radio. Cris Cyborg, welcome to Submission Radio. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you all fans from Australia, and I'm very excited to talk a little bit about my career.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of your career, I mean, let's talk about the big news. You're going to be fighting at Invicta 10 on December 5th, and you're going to be cutting down to bantamweight, 135 pounds. It's very exciting. You know, what is that like for you, and why the decision to cut down to 135?
You know, after my last fight, my Thai fight, and I talked with my team. And we think if I meet one nice guy, it's a very good guy, about dieting, and he's trying to help me, and for making 135, and they will train hard. I almost 2 months in Thailand, and train Muay Thai and lose weight. Now I come back to the United States for make my camp train for my next fight December, and I try my best, you know, from all my fans. I want to make 135 for maybe fight with Ronda Rousey.
Absolutely, Cris. And, you know, this is going to be your first time going down to bantamweight. I'm just wondering, if the cut goes well, are you planning on staying in bantamweight for a while? Or is it just a situation where you're looking to fight Ronda and then move back up to your natural weight class?
You know, for me, when I make 145, they're hard, you know, but I put my head ahead, and they have now professional my side, and he's told me we can make it, try, and I try my best. I want to be healthy, make 135, and I don't know how many times I can make 135, but I can say I try my best, make 135, and be strong, and I think December it's first fight I can see if I can still 135 or I have to back my weight class, but I'm not try.
Yeah, and we're definitely excited that you're trying. So you said you spoke to a gentleman, and he's going to be helping you. Did you speak to any doctors or anything like that? Did you get any more doctors' advice on how to safely make the weight cut?
Yeah, I work now with a diet coach. I know only less than him, Aponte. He worked before with BJ when he champion, UFC champ, and worked with other guys from UFC too. And I met him because my box coach, J.D. Perillo, introduced him for me, and we work together now, almost 3 months. And he have 100% I will be healthy and strong 135 in December.
Absolutely, Cyborg. Now, we're just wondering, with the cut, how do you think you will perform? Obviously, it takes a lot out of you, like you've mentioned. Do you think you'll still be able to perform at the same level going down to 135?
You know, I do now. You know, we want to be like this. You know, I want to be the same for sure, and I will train. I have more 2 months for my fight in December, and I train good. I train very well, and I think I'll be okay. I'll be okay in December, and we make nice work for me beat Sam. You know, I cannot be 135, not Sam 145. I think I'll beat Sam. I have to. So I know. So I feel no good. Probably, you know, cannot no good make 135. You know, I can keep my weight class 145, but we try the best for me to beat Sam because it's no nice, no deal, you know, no be nice 135. I have to be strong and Sam Cyborg everybody watch.
Yeah, of course. One thing is, you know, it's a big deal when a fighter goes to a new weight class for the first time, and it gives you a lot of new things to think about. However, you don't know who your opponent is yet at Invicta 10. Is it stressful at all for you, knowing that you'll be going to a new weight class, but you don't know who the opponent is?
No, I don't know yet. I think I will know soon, but I don't know yet my next opponent.
Okay. Is it tough for you that you don't know who your opponent is and you're coming to a new weight class as well? Is it stressful?
I train every day. I don't train only when I have fight. I think you have to train every day and learn something, and because every day you have to learn and have new things every day, every single day. So I think you have to train every day, and when you close the fight, you make your camp for your next opponent. You study her, and I'm training. I train every day, but as soon I will know who I will fight, and I study with my team, make a plan for the next fight. But for this 1 month, 45 days, it's okay. But you have to train every day, and for fight, you make specific train.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, in terms of the whole, training and everything, you say you've been training for 2 months. Where are you at the moment in your weight? Have you already started going down in weight? I'm cutting weight very well, and now I almost changed my diet again. And you are good. You're successful now, and I think I'll be okay in December, 135.
Absolutely, Chris. Now, I just want to change the subject to, the long layoff that you've had from MMA. Do you think that your return to Invicta in December, do you think there's going to be a bit of ring rust that you need to deal with going back in the octagon or in the ring in Invicta?
I think in December I don't have I don't have prove anything for nobody. I wanna make 135 because all my friends wanna watch. Once I make 135, I receive a lot of tweets and emails and everything because people giving me support, my fans. And I will try. I will try inside the octagon the best, and for sure I try knockout all the time. And everybody know my fight. I like to be very aggressive and try the best. And I think if you lose or win, it's consequence. But always when I fight, I go inside the octagon. I want to make the best fight tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And you very rarely disappoint. Your fights are always very exciting. Now, I wanted to ask you, Chris, it's no secret that you've spent your career at 145 pounds and now you're coming down to 135. Would you say that the reason is to get a future fight with Ronda Rousey?
No, 100%. I think because having more girls, 135 than 145. If it's possible, now I make 135 and feel good and feel healthy. I think I can keep 135. I'll be happy because I can fight more times per year. 145, have girls, but not have girls look like 135. And I think having more opportunities for me. And for sure, if I make 135, for sure I want to fight Ronda Rousey, for sure.
Absolutely, Chris. Now, you and Ronda, you guys are the big fight that everybody wants to see. It's been building for such a long time. Tell us, what do you think about Ronda Rousey as a fighter, and how do you think her skills have progressed? Have you seen her latest fight, and are you impressed at all by what she's been able to do in the UFC?
I think she's good athlete, and coming better, and she's improving now her boxing and Muay Thai. She's coming better. But I really think she's run from me when I'm Strikeforce champ. She's in my weight class 145, and she's run for 135 for cannot fight me, and she's try use my mistake for say she don't want to be UFC because heavy testing, doping test, but she's lie because I don't go for UFC because I have to cut for 135, and the time I talk to UFC, I'm no ready for this, no ready for the drop 135, and I think she's keep talking, keep run, and I think they make 135, she cannot run anymore, because everybody, all the fans want to watch this fight, and I think the only way for to happen this fight, and they can make she shut up, it's make 135.
Yeah, you're definitely right. It is definitely the fight that everybody wants to see. Now, let's talk, obviously, if the fight happens, her style is basically grappling, while yours is striking. What specific advantages do you see yourself having over Ronda, and how would you take the fight?
You know, I train stand-up, I train everything. I train stand-up, jiu-jitsu, I'm a brown belt with André Galvão, and I train wrestling, but I like this stand-up, you know. I cannot say, no, I go take down her, and no. I like this stand-up, and I think it's more exciting. I like to knock out people. I like punch people. I like this stand-up, strike. But people think, she don't have jiu-jitsu. Man, I compete jiu-jitsu, and I twice champion world and purple belt. I get my brown belt 1 year, and I like compete wrestling. I like compete. The last fight I did Muay Thai. I think when you compete, you learn every day something. But always when I fight, I like to stand-up. But not because I don't have ground, because I think it's more exciting. You know, I think I like change punch, I like big boxing, and I like this. And with Ronda Rousey, man, I want to I want to knock out her for sure, and I try. But you know, you have to be ready for everything inside the octagon. You know, take down, I'll be ready in ground. If I have opportunity, the submission her, I will. If I have opportunity to knock out her, I will. You know, it's game. You have to be ready for everything, and you'll be ready for everything when I fight her, for sure.
Now, Cris, you know, Ronda's been fighting in the UFC, which is, I suppose, the biggest stage in MMA for a long time now. And, you know, recently her striking coach said that she's one of the best female strikers in MMA. Obviously, the fans that know you know that you're an exceptional striker yourself. Do you think if it was a standing battle, Ronda Rousey would be able to hang in there with you in the striking department?
I think when you fight, when you champ, you have to be ready for everybody, everyone wanna fight you know. And for sure, if you have a belt, you have to be ready for defensive belt anytime. And for sure, she's have improved her stand-up. And I don't know, we have to see it soon.
And just one more question about the fight. You know, obviously Ronda, a lot of her victories come through her using her judo. How do you think you would be able to handle the judo? Obviously, you train in all sorts of grappling. How do you think would you be able to stop her judo?
You know, I start training with Ferry and after gym with André Galvão. We train grappling, train judo, train submission. And we train, you know. For sure, I will be ready for fight. I have to be ready for judo her. She has to be ready for my strike too. And let's go to the match. Let's go.
That's a great answer there. Now, Cris, you know, we speak about Ronda as a fighter, but now I just want to ask you about Ronda as a person. You know, Ronda was in Brazil recently, and she said some things about you that weren't the nicest comments, and it seems like she's had a lot of nasty things to say about you over this long rivalry that you guys have had leading up to this fight. So I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts on Ronda as a person and not just an athlete?
You know, I hear about it, and I think sad. You know, she's going my country, and she's why she's no enjoy my country and see my people, you know, and she's to try speak bad things about me and my country, you know. She's no smart girl, because everybody there wanna watch me and her, and I don't think nice, you know. I live in the United States and never speak bad about her, and I wanna fight her, but I don't need speak bad things about her for me try put in better place. You know, I can do better this. And I think it's no cool this, but no problem. I think it's game. You know, I think she try make it my Brazilian fans stay with her or make the fight. I don't know what she's wanna do, but she's try put I think UFC try make shit more fun in Brazil, you know, and I should try speak bad about me for make more Brazilian fans. And I think she's planned her. But for me, it doesn't matter. I think for me, no change. She can keep talk. For me, when she keep talk, I keep training. And this is my style. I don't like speak too much. I like only training. And inside the octagon, we can do different. I cannot talk, and we can fight. I think I have a fight inside the octagon, no outside, in website and interviews. I think it's my style. I respect style to her, but inside the octagon is different.
Absolutely. And would it be safe to say that, if you guys do fight in the UFC, it will be one of the most emotional feelings you'll feel towards an opponent after all that trash talk, being able to actually fight Ronda in the octagon? And do you think any of that will affect you, any of the trash talk that Ronda has said leading up to this fight? Do you think it will affect you mentally at all going into the fight with her?
I don't hate her, and she can keep talk, no change anything, but I don't have anything personal with her, I think it's everything professional. When I fight there, I fight somebody, it's my work. I have to go over there and try the best and bring the belt for home. But I don't have anything personal. She can keep talk, no change, And inside octagon, one thing, outside different. I don't think
Chris,
change anything. When I fight somebody in December and fight her, same. I don't hate her. I don't have nothing personal. It's professional.
Now, Chris, you've got a lot of goals. You've already been the Strikeforce featherweight champion. You're the current Invicta featherweight champion. How important is it for you to become possibly the UFC bantamweight champion? And how soon do you think it'll be before we see you in the UFC?
I think all the athletes, all fighters, have a dream to be UFC one day, because UFC now is a big event, the MMA event. And for me, I'd be glad, I think if God wanna bless me about this, I will feel blessed, and I wanna keep training, and I don't know, and be waiting. I wait for this time.
Absolutely. And, Chris, you mentioned that bantamweight has a lot of very good fighters. One of the fighters that's been getting a lot of attention is Betch Correa. She's another fighter in the UFC that wants to fight Ronda Rousey. I was just wondering, have you seen much of Betch, and do you think she's a threat to Ronda at all? And is she someone that you'd be open to fighting as well? Obviously, she's an upper contender over there in the division.
What name the other girl you talk about? Is Ronda Rousey the other girl? What name the other girl?
Betch Correa.
She's Brazilian.
Yeah.
I think I bet she's coming good, and I think she's good to strike. She's good in ground, and she's training Pitbull's gym in Brazil, and I think it's a great fight. I think she's ready for the fight. And she's coming, make a great fight, and she's won Shayna Baszler, won Jessica, she's won already all team, the Ronda Rousey, 4 horses, and I think he's coming, only Ronda Rousey her next one, so she's finished.
Yeah. Now, Chris, we asked the fans, or we told the fans that you were coming on the show, and a lot of them sent in their questions. So we'll ask you a couple of questions that the fans sent in for you. Pacemaker Joe had a couple of good ones. He wants to know, are you watching The Ultimate Fighter with all the ladies on the season, and who do you think will win?
I don't watch. I really have to watch. I'm in Thailand when it starts. And I know Penny, Jessica Penny.
Yep.
I know a lot of girls there, Jessica Penny, Carla, and I don't know, but I can stay with Penny because I know her. She's training Ruka with me, and I keep with her.
Now the Night Fox would like to know, Chris, who has been an inspiration for you as an athlete, when you were going into MMA, who do you look up to in MMA?
Before I'm a player handball, and I'm athlete. I'm start 12 years old, and when I was 19, I play handball with a guy, and one guy asked, he black belt Muay Thai from Stoolgate. He looked me and he asked me, you like Muay Thai fights? I said no. Then he's gave me card, and from Stoolgate he say me, I think you can be great fighter. And all the time when he see me my training, he asked me, you go see my gym, and I never go to gym. And one time I try, and he trained Muay Thai, and in 6 months I did my first fight, and I lost. I stopped training handball. I stopped training run competitions before I did, and I started doing MMA, and I lost because inside of time don't have rules. You can have rules, but not have a red card. Look like handball, and I lost. I think I'm born to be fired, and I'm glad because Jesus put his in my life. He has told me this because he not say anything for me. I don't think I'll be fighter one day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, yeah.
Now, I've got a question from Pacemaker Joe. He wants to know, how has your training changed and how has your diet changed in order to drop down to 135?
My changing my condition training, cardio, my food, my dieting, and I change more this, but the training, the technical training keep the same, but the training, the diet, and the food, it's different.
Absolutely, and we've got a question here from Conebone69. Conebone would like to know, what's your relationship like with Dana White? Potentially you'll be going to the UFC. Have you guys spoken much before, and what's your relationship like?
I saw him a couple of times, and when we start work with Strike Force, I met him, and no speak too much, only maybe 10 words. I think I have talked 10 words already. I don't know. And you have not too much. But I don't have any problems, And when I Strike Force champ, he talks to me, say I like my work, my fight, and a couple words, not too much.
Okay, fair enough. Now, Cris, we're going to do something that we call the Submission Radio Tap Out Round. It's a bit of fun. We ask you some fun questions about yourself, and basically just tell us the first thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready, but I don't know but that's okay. Let's go.
Okay, these are easy. What is Cris Cyborg's favorite food?
Sushi.
What's the hardest part of training?
Dieting.
Now, you touched on this a little bit earlier about your story about handball. So how young were you when you knew you wanted to be a professional fighter?
19.
Who is a fighter that you've always looked up to?
Again?
Who's a fighter that you've always liked? A fighter in MMA. Someone that inspired you.
Fedor Emelianenko. And the rest of us.
Now, what does Cris Cyborg do to relax?
Walks in the beach with with my dog, or run.
Have you seen The Expendables 3, and what did you think about the movie?
I don't watch.
Now, Cris, you had a very exciting fight against Jarena Bars. Are you interested in a rematch, possibly?
Yeah, for sure.
Cris, will you continue to fight in kickboxing, or will you focus on MMA full time now that you're going to be making your bantamweight debut in December?
When I think my focus is MMA. but I like competing other things, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, Muay Thai, because when I compete, I learn more. I have more experience because I don't like training, I don't like fighting only one time, twice per year. I like fight more, and for keeping motivated training, and I want to have possibility to continue training and fight other things. I want to still fight Muay Thai and wrestling, jiu-jitsu, because my contract with Invicta, I can fight not only MMA, I can fight other things too, and that make me happy. I like this.
Awesome. Now, Cris, what sort of music do you listen to?
I like gospel music and I like rapper, and different times I listen to different kind of music.
Cris, do you have any secret talents that we don't know about?
Secret talent. I don't know. You have to ask my friend. I don't know.
They'll remain a secret.
But everything I do try the best. No one train for fight. To do something
of course.
for me, I try be better than can.
Yep. Now, Cris, you fought some of the best women in the world, over your career, like Marlis Conan, Jan Finney, Gina Carano, even Shayna Baszler. In your career so far, what has been your favorite fight?
I think that's Gina Carano the best fight, I think, because before no one don't have the belt for girls in MMA, and it's like first time have the history, 2 girls main card and the both belt. I think this fight is important about this, and they open the door for all girls. And I think if I do Gina Carano, I think it's a big promotion.
Absolutely, guys. Now, Cris, thank you so much for coming on to Submission Radio for the interview. We're very excited to watch you in December to make your debut in Invicta. And all the best with your cut. We'll make sure that we'll stay in touch with you to find out how it's all going.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. Thanks for everybody listening to me. And I'm sorry my English. I try to improve. I try learning every day so I can talk with fans and give you more interviews so people know about me more, not only inside the octagon. And people follow me. I fight December. And follow me Twitter. Any question, I answer. And thanks so much. And see you soon.
The pleasure was all ours, Cris. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Okay. Bye. Thank you.
There she is, guys. One of the most dangerous women in MMA, and you can, of course, follow her on Twitter at Cris Cyborg. Like she says, she answers all of your questions, and there's plenty of questions to ask, the multiple-time world champion. But, of course, the biggest one, Casper, is will she make that bantamweight division? And if she does, it'll be a very interesting story from there.
Yeah, exactly. Like we've talked about many times behind the scenes, on air, off air, it's going to be very interesting if Cyborg can make the 135-pound limit. A lot of people do try and make certain weights, and it doesn't always go according to plans. So while we definitely hope Cyborg makes it and that Ronda fight gets set up inevitably, it's going to be really interesting to see what exactly happens and just how she performs in a bantamweight debut. But like we said at the start of the show, we've been away for a while. I think it's been about 2 solid weeks. A lot of things have happened since then. I mean, obviously, Mark Hunt versus Roy Nelson, UFC, a lot of events. I mean, there's been Bellators. There's been, obviously, one of the biggest things to come out recently. Let's just cut to it. I mean, Wanderlei Silva retired. MMA legend, MMA icon, Pride legend, Pride icon. Long ass career, and now all of a sudden the man up and basically retires. Lots to talk about, Dennis. First of all, what are your thoughts on this?
Wanderlei Silva retiring. Now, you know me, I'm a big Wanderlei Silva fan, and I know Dana White said there would be a big thing coming out of this whole scenario, but a lifetime ban and obviously such a big fine. Pretty harsh stuff there. Now, I was pretty devastated, man. There were a lot of fights left for Wanderlei. I thought he's always exciting to watch, and obviously you and me and Wanderlei have a special connection after meeting him in 2010. and him being on our show before. But yeah, I was very summer nights. That's right, boys will be boys. So yeah, I was very disappointed. Okay, obviously it's a sus circumstance. A lot of stuff happened, but yeah, you just don't want to see your favorites leave the sport. And I suppose he's a bit older, but yeah, his last fight was so good. I felt like he had a couple left in him. Cass, what did you think? How did the heartstrings feel after you saw that news?
Yeah, you mentioned the last fight. I mean, a lot of people thought that Wanderlei should retire after the Brian Stann fight. That fight was epic in on itself and probably would have been a perfect fight to retire on, being in Saitama Arena, the arena that made him famous. He had an absolute war. He was the underdog, came back like the Cinderella man, didn't cruise to a bloody war decision. He knocked out Brian Stann, the man who was sent there like an assassin to beat him. Brian Stann, most people thought that he should have beaten Wanderlei Silva. Instead, Wanderlei Silva was like a zombie where the hand pops up through the grave at the end of the movie, and then he was back, out for vengeance, and he did it. It was just a really awesome moment. So, and you know what, you're right. I didn't see him necessarily winning the title. I didn't think that was going to happen, but I thought there was at least a couple of fun fights, namely him versus Sonnen, even him versus Belfort, a lot of interesting things. So to see it all kind of end and just in a kind of weird way, like for the last at least year and a half, we've all been waiting for this Sonnen fight. And if not Sonnen fight, a fight. There was obviously, he was supposed to verse Vitor Belfort at one point after the Ultimate Fight in Brazil. So just, there was at no point any expectations that, Wanderlei Silva's done. I think a lot of people kind of figured, his career's winding down. He's not going to be around for the next, 5-10 years, but we're going to see a couple more fights. He's going to get inducted into the Hall of Fame, and he's going to ride off into the sunset. This is very sort of brutal out of nowhere. And just to kind of go over it again, obviously, the guy from the State Athletic Commission, he went to Wanderlei's gym, knocked on the door. Wanderlei basically was out the back door. I think he greeted him at first, said he's going to, go out to the back toilet or something like that. And then he went outside the building, and basically they were like, okay, he's run from the test. Now, here's the thing. He's basically serving a lifetime ban from the sport of MMA. That's in Nevada, but of course the UFC don't want to piss off the other state athletic commissions. Well, they don't want to piss off Nevada, so they're not going to go behind their back and get him a fight in anywhere else. Dana White's not too happy. He hasn't blasted Wanderlei, but he's not too happy. So obviously he's not going to be fighting in the UFC again, and he's not going to be in the Hall of Fame. But man, just to be honest, a lifetime ban, that's really, really harsh, considering he didn't actually fail a test. Wanderlei said that he had diuretics in his system and he was worried that they'd pop up. I think he was nursing, I want to say, an injured shoulder. But yeah, he ran from a test, and that's a really bad thing, and obviously they should probably set an example to set a precedent. But by contrast, you got Chael Sonnen, who got popped for multiple things, and he got, only a 2-year ban. He got, human growth hormone and things like that. Whereas Wanderlei, he didn't actually piss hot for anything. It's at this point kind of assumption. And I don't know too much about the laws, but from what Wanderlei's lawyer has said, he was an unlicensed fighter. Whether he was promoting a fight or not, he was unlicensed. So I don't know exactly what the State Athletic Commission's jurisdiction is. But all I can say is, man, a lifetime, like, considering that's the way the guy makes money. I don't know what financial situation he is. I don't know. Maybe he's all set and he's going to invest his money and stuff like that. But if he wasn't, and someone said, listen, this is your job, your career, a way that you make money to feed you and your family, you can't do it anymore. That's tough, man, because, I mean, I don't see him getting a job at, like, Walmart or anything.
Could you imagine that? Could you imagine a guy? Could you imagine walking into Walmart or Kmart here in Australia and the greeter being Wanderlei Silva, and he's in a bad mood, and you ask him a question? But yeah, I agree with you, man. I think it's a very tough punishment. I agree with you. They're trying to make an example out of him, and yeah, I don't know if that's right. And I guess I'm sad because with Wanderlei is one of those rare fighters where you don't just get a fight, you get an experience. So you get the weigh-in, you get the stare down, you get, the countdown video, you get all the stuff that comes with the fight, you get the entrance. You don't get that with many fighters. Rampage was one of them, Chuck Liddell was one of them, Wanderlei's one of them, Tito's one of them. You don't have that. Like, there's a lot of great new guys coming up, but you just don't get as excited for a lot of it like you did with Wanderlei. Now, you and me were in Sydney in 2010. We weren't front row, but we had a pretty good view of the stage when he had that stare down with Bisping. And man, he scared me, and we were up the back, in the bleacher seats. It was just an intense experience, and I'm just sad that people won't get to experience that anymore. I think that's sad.
I don't remember being that scared since the other weekend when Amanda Nunes was mad dogging the screen and I had to look away from the TV screen. That's how scared I was. But no, you're absolutely right. I think maybe the word you're looking for was star. Wanderlei was a bona fide star. He was still a draw. He was pretty much guaranteed to have an exciting fight. I mean, seriously, when was the last time Wanderlei was in a in a boring fight? Against Rich Franklin, against Brian Stan, even Chris Lieben. I mean, he lost, but it was still an exciting fight. I guess all that kind of stuff doesn't really matter, whether he was exciting or not. The State Athletic Commission, you know what's funny? To a degree, I was going to say they don't care. But here's the thing. I mean, Floyd Mayweather was in a funny situation. He had to appear before the State Athletic Commission. Now, he was facing a series of charges. I don't know about charges. Don't quote me on this. I'm not a lawyer. I don't want to slander anyone. But I know one of the things was basically he had like a countdown show and before his fight. And, his girlfriend was there. They were smoking weed. She was smoking weed, things like that. And they basically brought him in for that. Now, he basically said, okay. Oh, and there was another thing about guys sparring, I think like 30 rounds, things like that. So the Athletic Commission put their foot down on that. Now, in his hearing, he said basically, well, look, the weed was synthetic. It's all fake. It's all production. It's all a TV show. The 30 rounds weren't actually 30 rounds. And yeah, basically the Athletic Commission thanked him for coming, thanked him for making an appearance, and talked about how professional his gym was and how great he is and how much they love him because he's a cash cow. He's going to make him $32 million. In the sport of MMA, they don't make that much money. So it's a little bit like, oh, thank you so much for Mr. Mayweather for coming in there. It's like, all right, who's next? The MMA guys? All right, let's get him in there. Let's get this done. So, with Wanderlei Silva, it's a bit of a different story where regardless of how exciting he is or anything like that, they're going to slam him with this, or they did slam him with this punishment. But man, I know Joe Rogan also mentioned that he thinks it's a bit unfair, and I have to agree with the guy. That's a crazy punishment, a lifetime ban. Like, I mean, I don't want to put a year on how long Wanderlei will live, but if he lives to be 100, that's like another 60-something years where Wanderlei will never be able to fight. I just think that's crazy for a guy like him to just kind of fade out overnight. Boggles the mind.
Yeah, and it's like under a negative situation as well. I mean, a lot of people see him in a negative light going out in his retirement. Not us, definitely, because we're big fans and we respect him for everything that he's done in the sport. But, a lot of people, oh, he's retiring in disgrace. He's retiring on this negative note. And, Dana White's like, oh, we can't induct him into the UFC Hall of Fame under this, under this situation, which is, it's their Hall of Fame. So it's their option whether they want to do that or not. But yeah, at the end of the day, there's a lot of negativity around it. And I mean, even, whatever happened, he still had a lot of amazing fights and he still had a lot of amazing performances and put his body on the line for a lot of the fans. So yeah, he certainly deserves our respect, Cass. And, I had to go off to him. But Cass, he's been on the show once before, but we've actually got a big thing coming out this week, don't we?
Yeah, actually, here's the perfect time to mention it. We actually will be interviewing Wanderlei Silva, and the interview is going to be coming out tomorrow. So stay tuned to the channel, subscribe if you are so inclined, because we'll be having the first official the first official interview with Wanderlei Silva not conducted in Brazil. I don't know if he's done any interviews in Brazil, but he's definitely going to be doing one with us. We've got dibs on the exclusive. So check it out tomorrow around about the same time. Wanderlei Silva live.
Yeah, that's right. And one of the big questions that you guys can look forward, because we're not going to, dance around anything. We're going to get straight to it with Wanderlei. We're going to find out everything we can find out about his future and about the situation. But one of the things I'm excited to talk to him about is if he's retired or whether he's planning on fighting for a different organization. Obviously the UFC stuff didn't pan out. So guys, you can look forward to a lot of stuff in this interview. Me and Casper will sit down with Wanderlei. He'll be sitting in Brazil, but we'll all be sitting and we'll be having a big conversation. So that's coming out tomorrow. It's going to be a big, big, fun exclusive.
And the main thing is we'll all be sitting down. But yeah, you know what? And you hit the nail on the head. Very good question about that. Obviously, Wanderlei, voiced his displeasure with the organization, the event. It's a little bit vague. Did he mean the UFC? Did he mean Bellator as well? What did he mean? Are we going to see him pull a Tito and Bonner and end up in Bellator? So stay tuned for that one.
That's right. Now, the other big thing that happened, Cass, UFC 178, we weren't around for that. And, I really felt like I really missed having the show around that time. Obviously, we love chatting to the fans. We were still going through Twitter, but I really felt the break at that one because it was a great card and so much stuff happened. One of the things that popped up that, I really wanted to chat about was this whole Stoolgate incident between Kennedy and Romero. Obviously, you have to live under a rock not to know what happened there. But yeah, it was a big incident at UFC 178.
Yeah, it was. So basically, for anyone that didn't see it, I mean, obviously, Yoel Romero was sitting on the stool for about 29 seconds extra between the second round and the third. And the reason why it's such a big deal is because Yoel Romero almost got finished in the second round. I mean, Tim Kennedy's whole argument is basically, shit, if I got 29 extra seconds, he would be, still in a coma. And I wouldn't say unfortunate thing, but as it happened, Tim Kennedy actually got finished in the third round. Now, what Tim Kennedy said is he basically thought the round was over. He thought it was finished. He basically, I guess, got out of his mental state that he was in, that mental focus, and he was just basically ready for the winner announcement. And then when they said, the third round is coming, he was surprised because he's thinking this guy's sitting down, he should be disqualified. So it seemed like a bit of a lapse in concentration for him. And then, basically got knocked out in a matter of seconds. I think it was 58 seconds into the third round. So a lot of controversy. People kind of like, what would have happened if the second round went longer? Yoel Romero was sitting there. Was he biding his time? Was he stealing time? Because he was obviously very visibly hurt. It's not a case where, like, this is a close fight, bit of grinding going on, enter the third round. This was like, man, Yoel Romero got smashed, very close to not getting knocked out. I reckon, man, maybe like another 10 seconds, and Yoel Romero could have possibly been knocked out in the second. So he's sitting on this stool, and the first question was, why is he sitting on the stool? Was he that close to being knocked out? Is he hurt? Yoel Romero is not known for having the best gas tank, so people thought, is he just completely gassed? And I mean, what was your take on it, Dennis?
Well, exactly right. Exactly what you said. It was an interesting situation. It really looked like Kennedy, if the round went a few extra seconds, like you said, he probably would have put it away. And he was in that ring really, taking his time, trying to recover and gained his feet. I think the big thing was that when he came out in the second round, he knocked Kennedy out and beat him. And third round, that's right. It was a difficult situation. A lot of people saying that this one should be overturned. Joe Rogan believes that this one should be overturned. Obviously, Joe Rogan has a lot of great opinions. A lot of people saying that it's a bit unfair. Tim Kennedy going off a little bit on him. Backstage after the fight. Personally, I'm going to put out my personal opinion out there, and I'm going to ask you yours, Cass. But personally, I don't think it should be overturned. Look, I think what happened was unfortunate. It was an unfortunate sequence of events that shouldn't happen in MMA. And after you talk about your opinion on it, we'll actually talk about an anonymous tip that we've got from the Octagon as well that we can talk about. But my opinion is that it shouldn't be overturned, and that's because I feel like Yoel knocked out Tim Kennedy, and that's a big deal. He beat him decisively. I feel like if the fight went out to a decision and Yoel won that decision, I feel like it should be overturned. But I feel because Yoel came back and knocked out Kennedy and beat him decisively, I don't think it should be overturned. I mean, if I was Kennedy, of course, I'd be really, really pissed off. And this stuff shouldn't happen in the Octagon. But at the same time, you got to give Yoel his kudos for knocking out Kennedy at the end. He did a great thing in the Octagon. So it was, look, two great things happened in the Octagon. There was a horrible sequence of events that I'd be pretty pissed off about. But in a way, it's not just Yoel's fault. It's the people in the Octagon. It's whoever's in charge of all that, and it was a big misunderstanding. So I don't know if he should have to pay 100% pay for that. What do you think, Cass? What are your thoughts on it?
I agree with a lot of what you said, and honestly, I sat on the fence for quite a lot of it. Basically, you're right. Yoel did knock out Tim Kennedy. You got to give him his kudos and things like that. But to be perfectly honest, I also think you need to set a precedent. I think that, rules were essentially broken here, whether it was a misconception or misunderstanding or miscommunication, whatever the case is, somebody was sleeping on the job and somebody needs to wake up. I mean, this thing shouldn't happen. So basically, the anonymous tip that we got was basically, and we're not going to read it verbatim, but basically what happened was, right before the third round started, it was noticed that Yoel Romero had a lot of Vaseline over his eye. So basically, Big John McCarthy said, we got to get rid of that. One of the I think it was the inspector, basically ordered one of the cornermen. Sorry, the inspector from the State Athletic Commission ordered someone to come in, right, to remove the Vaseline. Bear in mind, the referees are not allowed to remove the Vaseline because they're going to open up the cut, right? So the inspector who ordered someone in to remove should have asked the cut man to do it. Instead, one of your Romero's cornermen came in, right? He shouldn't be removing the Vaseline either. Now, the unfortunate thing is the cornerman doesn't understand English, so when he came in, he started wiping down Romero, right? Now, when Big John saw this, he basically ordered everybody out. Wasn't allowing anyone in there. And then, if you look closely, you can see Big John removing the Vaseline. And that was basically when they started the fight. But there wasn't any point where Romero said he quit or anything like that. I kind of thought that initially, but I have watched the replay many times, and he doesn't actually say that he's quit or anything. So I think it was a bit of a misunderstanding. One of the, biggest sort of mistakes there was the fact that obviously the inspector who was overlooking this should have gotten the cut man to go in there, remove the Vaseline. Because essentially, otherwise, you're breaking two rules. It's a bit of a lose-lose situation. If you let the fight go on, get him in there. I mean, the dude's got Vaseline, we don't want another Greasegate scenario. So, my opinion is the fight didn't go according to the rules. Was there drama? Was it a fun fight, etc.? Yes, but it didn't go according to the rules. And I think, people need to wake up. People like, inspectors, etc., need to really be on their game. You can't have stupid mistakes like this. And while I completely understand that everybody mistakes, it happens. You made them, I've made them. Everybody makes mistakes. You got to learn from these kind of mistakes. So I think I wouldn't have any problems with the fight being overturned because, like I said before, Yoel Romero was very, very badly hurt. And those 30 seconds, I mean, you see guys in the middle of a fight recover with, in 5 seconds, when they're just wobbly and they're trying to run away from the guy and get their feet on them. 29 seconds sitting down, that's a lot of time to recover. So who knows, had Yoel Romero gone in there without those 29 seconds, might have gone a completely different way. He might have gotten knocked out, or he might have scored the decision, or he might have knocked out Tim Kennedy anyway. We don't know. But in my opinion, the rules are broken, should be overturned.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective there. And who is this Inspector Gadget who's just standing around ordering the wrong orders? He needs to be brought up as well, and he needs to be put through the ringer as well, I think, in this scenario. But yeah, obviously Yoel Romero, he was on 22nd Street, didn't know where he was. So look, we're not going to put too much blame on the guy. He came back out and he knocked out Kennedy. So that's pretty impressive when you're pretty wobbly. But yeah, it was not a good moment and full of controversy. So there you go, guys. That's the take there. Now, Cass, Story versus Nelson. That was a big fight that happened, just before. It was an exciting weekend full of fights. This was the big one over there. Rick Story, he's had some difficult decision losses. A lot of people say that he should be on a win streak right now. What did you think of this fight? What did you think of Rick Story's performance?
Man, I was incredibly impressed with Rick Story. Like you said, he has had some tough fights. Obviously, he has fights where he really seems to find his rhythm. Like he beat Brian Ebersol. Before that, he lost to Mike Pyle. Another very, very close decision. Then he lost to Kelvin Gastelum, and then he beat Leonardo Mafra, and now he beat Gunnar Nelson. So he's sitting on a nice 2-fight win streak. And, before that, a while ago, people were saying that this guy might be the one to beat GSP. He's the next big thing, etc. Now, I think he's gone through a very big journey. He's had his own story. Pardon the pun, lame. But he's really come around. In this fight, he really, really looked like a very complete fighter. I mean, he's always had the wrestling. I wouldn't necessarily say grappling because that includes submissions. We don't really see many submissions from him, but he's always had the wrestling. He's always a very powerful guy. Man, did he look explosive in this fight. Lots of looping punches. He even had straight punches, the leg kicks, everything he did, everything he fired off was incredibly explosive. And Gunnar Nelson's very similar in that sense in terms of he's very explosive and he's very quick. He prefers the straight attacks, a lot of the tricky kicks. Gunnar Nelson's basically all about speed, and obviously we've seen what he can do on the ground. He was being touted very heavily, and he has been for a very long time. I mean, further proof of that, I mean, the EA Sports UFC patch just came out, I think, yesterday, and lo and behold, Tim Kennedy and, of course, Gunnar Nelson. I don't see Rick Story in the game. So, you know, these guys, I think, were, you know, putting a lot of chips onto the Gunnar Nelson pile. And, man, Rick Story really blew the train off its rails. And, you know, he won a split decision. I actually don't think that was necessarily warranted. I think it was very convincing, the Gunnar Nelson who won that. And it was a very, very fun fight above all else. What did you think, Dennis?
Awesome. Yeah, you know, a lot of talk coming out of this one. Does Gunnar Nelson need to go down a weight class, you know? Is that a good decision for him? Now, I don't know about that, but you know, Gunnar Nelson, he's had some great wins. I've spoken about some of the holes in his game. He's only 26 years old. He's a very talented young man, and Rick Story's tough because he's such a great wrestler, and Gunnar Nelson has such an unorthodox style. You know, it'll be interesting to see where Gunnar goes from this, because you know he hasn't lost. He hasn't lost ever. I'm just looking through his record now, and he had a draw in 2007. Apart from that, this is his first official loss. So, you know, it's always interesting to see these guys lose, because a lot of them come back stronger and learn from that loss. And I feel Gunnar's going to be one of those guys, you know. He'll probably look at the holes in his game that caused him to lose this fight a little bit closer and decide where he'll go from there. So definitely interested to see Gunnar after this. And, you know, I like Rick's story. I'm happy that he got the win. Interested to see where he goes from here. Like you mentioned, he's had a story of his own, and it looks like he came out the other side in a good way. So if we see a motivated, you know, in the right place mentally Rick Story, who knows what this kid could do? He's only 30 years old. He's a young guy as well. So very excited to see what happens with these guys next.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's entirely possible that we'll see Rick Story have one of those career resurgences. I mean, you know, even a guy like Martin Kampmann, who's had his fair share of, you know, wins and losses. I mean, he was on a really good win streak not too long ago and looking very, very impressive, like he might possibly, you know, be on the cusp of title contention. So anything's possible. And you're right, you know, Rick Story is a really young guy. I think in this fight, the thing about Gunnar Nelson is he's got that Lyoto Machida karate style where he waits a lot for, you know, his opponent to come forward and he wants to basically counter them. The funny thing is, in this fight, we actually saw Rick Story, while he was pressuring Gunnar, he was actually doing a lot of countering, you know, in on his own. And the problem with that karate style sometimes is that it makes you look a little bit, I guess, unbusy. Now, I think he still looked good in this fight. Gunnar looked good. It was still a close fight. I just think there was moments where, and you know, Dan Hardy hit the nail on the head. Guys like Gunnar Nelson and even Lyoto Machida, they rely a lot on their speed and their timing. If you're going to counter a guy and hit him with, you know, a good shot, you really need to have your timing perfect. And the thing is, if you're in a 5-round fight, the longer the fight goes, the tougher it is to do. Unless you really, really pace yourself. And I mean, Gunnar Nelson, he was still working hard in this fight. You're probably going to run, you know, the gas tank low a little bit, and coming later into the fight, you may not have as good timing and as good speed, and, you know, obviously the cardio, and obviously he got dropped by Rick Story. So I think this is a bit of a tough one for Gunnar Nelson. Yeah, I saw a few people talking about him dropping down a weight class. Look, he's definitely not the biggest welterweight. I mean, having said that, Rick Story is a large welterweight. I don't think he needs to move down a weight class. I think he just needs to go back to the drawing board, you know, fix some of the holes. He'll figure out what he needs to do, and I think we'll definitely see Gunnar Nelson come back a lot stronger. But let's talk about the other main event. I mean, we also had Rory MacDonald against Tarek Saffiedine, the other sort of pie in this welterweight division at the moment. It was a big weekend, 2 welterweight main events. What did you think? First of all, what did you think about the fight, Rory MacDonald versus Tarek Saffiedine, coming into this fight? What did you think was going to happen, Dennis?
Well, you know, it's no secret that we like Tarek Saffiedine because he's a romantic, and he said this on our show, you know, when he was on. You guys can check it out on the channel. Cheap plug, youtube.com/submission radio AUS. But, you know, AU, not AUS. But, you know, I thought this was a really good matchup. You know, I thought Tarek might have had this one. I thought that he's got crazy leg kicks. Rory just kind of stands around awkwardly sometimes. I thought, you know, he had a good chance of beating him. I thought it was a great matchup. There were some crazy eyes, some crazy stare downs. Rory MacDonald, I keep calling him MacDonald. Rory MacDonald is one crazy dude, man. Like, and I'm saying that in a respectable way. He's just a very weird guy. And I don't think I've met many people like him. And it's very strange to watch him. And Cass, Rory McDonald in the UFC game. How awesome is it when those clips pop up where he talks about coming to train with you?
Ah, yeah, I love that. He's so excited. It's like, hey, I'm Rory. I'm gonna.
It's like in his mother's living room or something. There's like some computer from like 2006 there, like a Pentium one.
Yeah. Oh man. And you know what, BJ as well. BJ is also like, hey, you won your last fight. Good. Come down to Hawaii. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was like, well, I'm not going to come down with that kind of pep, but yeah, it was like I felt like Rory McDonald was going to ask if like if it was okay for him to come over for like a slumber party or something. Yeah, like bring like a tent and stuff. But yeah, look, I thought it was a great matchup. I thought the UFC did a good job putting this one together. What did you think of the matchup initially, Cass?
I honestly thought it was a lot closer than people thought. I saw a lot of people sleepy on Tarek. I saw a lot of people saying Rory's going to destroy him, etc. And to a degree, he did. I wouldn't say complete destruction. It was a very, very, very impressive fight. I just kind of thought, look, Tarek's got the leg kicks. Rory's got a very wide stance. Rory's got decent wrestling, but it's not world class. And Tarek trains obviously with Dan Henderson and all those guys. I kind of thought Tarek's wrestling takedown defense is actually pretty decent. He's got pretty decent wrestling in on his own. So I was a little bit surprised that Rory was so sort of dominant in terms of the wrestling aspect. Not that there was a lot of it, but it just seemed like he could go for a lot more takedowns if he so chose to. I don't know, man. I mean, I kind of thought this was going to be close. I just thought there was a lot of hype for Rory. I'm not saying that it wasn't justified. In the Tyron Woodley fight, he looked really good. I just kind of thought we need to see that other test. And I think Tarek Saffiedine was that perfect test. Like we've said about Tyron, he either wins impressively and kills his opponent, or he just looks incredibly average. Tarek Saffiedine, he's always been an underdog, but he's very consistent. I thought that, in the first round, it wasn't looking great for Tarek. Obviously, Rory McDonald, incredibly focused. And may I just say, man, this fight had big fight feel all over it. When they came out, that promo, kudos to the UFC. That was a sick promo, the way they did that. I was pumped. I had goosebumps. And then the song that Tarek came out to, I guess it was some French song or a Belgian song. It was awesome. And then Rory came out. Rory, for those of you who don't know, some guy was trolling Rory. The guy who chooses the songs in the UFC had Rory's old number, who had been picked up by a fan, and the fan was actually texting the sound guy or whatever, the audio guy from the UFC, saying, play this song, this is what I want for my entrance song. And so the last few songs, I know, Dennis, you commented on it and said, like, oh, what the hell's Rory coming out to? Rory never chose those songs. It was some fan. And then one day, some guy came, like the audio guy came up to Rory and was like, hey, we can't actually play that song. And Rory's like, what the hell are you talking about? So they called the number, and he's like, I called you, you said, and he's like, no, I didn't. So he's like, call the number, and he's like, that's not my number anymore. So they called it, and the guy picked up, and he's like, no, I'm not Rory, I'm just a fan. So there you go.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
what a legend.
What a champion. I know, right? We should have that guy on the show.
Yeah, we should do a whole show about the guy.
We should, like Behind the Blow.
Imagine we call up a guest one day, like we call up Wanderlei Silva for a big exclusive interview, which is a cheap plug coming out tomorrow, and it ends up being the guy. He pretends to be Wanderlei Silva.
It's just like, I'm not Wanderlei, I'm just a fan, and we're like, well, we've got the questions, so you're going to be Wanderlei today. You're going to ask these questions. Oh, man. No, but yeah. Back to the matter at hand. I mean, Rory came out to Saint Anger by Metallica. Love that song. I used to listen to it in the gym when I was going to the gym. That was awesome. And like I said, man, Rory was focused as hell. Seriously looked like Christian Bale in American Psycho. Would not break the stare. Did not want to look away from Tarek. And Tarek didn't either, which was awesome. It was like, I don't know, it was just awesome. That whole unstoppable force versus immovable object, kind of similar guys, similar build, similar look almost. I love those kind of matchups, you know what I mean? I love it. And you know that kind of like where you look at, say, Roy Nelson, Mark Hunt, and you're like, these guys are just mirror images. Like, this is just sick. That Rock versus Stone Cold, and I'm not going to get into wrestling because I know some MMA fans don't like it, but I love these very similar kind of matchups. Both guys technical, both guys not the greatest wrestlers, but decent. And in the first round, I was like, man, Tarek's in trouble. see what the second round brings, and he brought it. He was actually doing really well. He was really lighting Rory up, and then bam, you got caught with that picture-perfect uppercut, and it was all over. So, you know, I mean, that's always at the third round. I'm not even 100% sure. That was a statement, man. That was a statement and a half by Rory, and I really think, no equivocations, he has to have that next title shot. He said in his post-fight speech, you know, please give, he's like, I'm ready for the title shot, please give it to me. He doesn't have to say please. Does my head in when guys say this, when they ask for a title shot. You need to get on that mic, you need to raise the decibels a little bit, and you need to demand that title shot. That's what people want. That's what gets people excited. I've never seen anyone get excited like, oh my God, did you see that? He just asked, please, can I have that title shot? Oh man, I hope they give it to him. You got to get on that stick. You got to call someone out. You got to name a name, and you got to say, you know, you and me, give a date and say, you know, that you want it. But regardless, he proved it. He proved it by his actions, not his talking. And I think, you know, Rory McDonald, whether he will beat, you know, either Robbie Lawler or Johnny Hendricks, whether he actually beat him for the title is another thing, but I absolutely think he deserves it. What do you think, Dennis?
Well, I absolutely agree with you, Cass. And, you know, when you grab that mic and you start speaking loudly, you know, why not mention, you know, how you don't want to drink a Bud Light, how you'd prefer a Coors Light instead, and how you're getting up on top of the old lady tonight.
Yeah.
And maybe yell at the camera and have the mouthpiece fall out. Now, you know, you and me love that. And I think if there's going to be an influx of that happening in the UFC, it's going to be because of our interviews. Because I feel like every time we get a guy like Dennis Bermudez on the show, we always spend at least 5 minutes asking him, why don't you call people out?
I know.
Why don't you? What are you going to say after the fight? So, you know, I think you and me know that's how the system works. And, you know, if anybody needs proof of that, just look up Chael Sonnen or Conor McGregor. You'll be able to find out a picture of him in the dictionary next to loud mofos. But
did you know? So apparently Conor McGregor now is charging $2,500 for interviews, 15 minutes. And if you want to get Conor McGregor on for an hour, $10,000. Did you know this?
Well, usually people pay us $10,000 to come on the show. So obviously, you know, we live luxurious lives. Yeah, I had no idea. And
by that we mean we eat tuna and an apple for dinner every night.
Yeah, that's right. We hope nobody knows this is how we live. Yeah, you know, hey, if that's what he's charging, then I feel like there's going to be a lot less Conor McGregor interviews happening anytime soon.
He's going to have to host his own show. Seriously, he's going to have his own TV show or network, or I don't know, start a YouTube channel, because I don't know who's going to be I don't know who's going to be getting him on for $2,500. That's crazy for 15 minutes.
You know, Conor McGregor's the type of guy that if he does his own YouTube channel, he'll pay himself the $10,000 out of his bank account for an hour just to make it feel like someone's paying him. But you know, the fight, I'm going to be a backseat coach now, which I know a lot of people hate, but I'm going to say that Saffiedine was too defensive, and he let Rory get in his groove, and I feel like he should have gone forward more. And I understand that leaves him open for takedowns, but he was doing a lot of counter striking, and he wasn't getting there first. So he had some great leg kicks, and there was that one part when McDonald took him down, and he got right back up, and I was like, yeah, man, that's impressive. That's really impressive stuff there. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents. I thought it was a great fight up until that finish. And, hey, I agree with you, man. The guy deserves a title shot. I think it's going to be an absolute disgrace if he doesn't get that title shot next. I mean, just give him the title shot, and then we'll go from there. And, you know, I want it to happen before GSP supposedly comes back to MMA. Because then what's going to happen then?
Yeah, just give it to him, man.
Is he going to go for the title still? He should still go for the title. But then there's going to be a conundrum on their hands.
And boy, do we love conundrums in MMA. You know, that's a really interesting one. See, here's the thing, right? You've obviously got Hendricks versus Lawler 2. Great rematch. If ever there should be one, that's the fight right there. Hopefully it's gonna be a good fight. I don't want to jinx anything. But then obviously if Lawler wins, boom, we got a new champion, exciting stuff, pants party with the pants, and then it's Rory McDonald against Robbie Lawler 2. Which is exciting, obviously, because of the way the first one went. This new one would be 5 rounds. That's awesome. You know, there's history there. But if it goes the other way, and if Hendricks retains, okay, now we've got a champion that's obviously defended the title, and then you got a new challenger, Rory McDonald, and then it's interesting, how do these guys match up? You know, would Hendricks be able to do what Robbie Lawler did? Because, you know, in theory, if he beats Lawler, then would that make him, you know, better? Would all these kinds of things and questions? But you're absolutely right. If Rory does in fact beat him, well, now you've got Rory McDonald as champion. Would that make GSP stay on the shelf? Because I don't think GSP is going to come around and, you know, fight everybody other than, the champion. I think that'd be ridiculous. And Dana White has said, I think as recently as a week or 2 weeks ago, I think about a week, that if GSP comes back, he can have a title shot straight away. Which, to be honest, I don't know that would be a good thing. Because GSP said he had a cage rust in his Carlos Condit fight. He's gone through the same thing. He's had the ACL surgery, and he's been away, I don't know if it's longer, but he's been away for a long time. If he does come back, I mean, even if he announces he's come back today, he'd be like, what, at least a few months away, 3 months, something like that. So, effectively, whenever he does decide to come back, if he decides to come back, it's going to be a long time. So I think GSP will probably need someone to sharpen his skills against. But that's the thing. If Rory's champion, I think GSP might just sit on the shelf for a while.
Yeah, that's right. Even if he comes back, even if the UFC go down that other road where it's like, the guy's such a huge star, he doesn't need to have the championship belt around his waist to draw pay-per-view money and start doing all these crazy fights with him. I wouldn't mind that either. I think he was pretty bored just staying around being champion. So we'll see what happens when he comes back. Going to be very interesting. I think it'll be interesting to see how Anderson Silva goes against Nick Diaz and see what the UFC does with him, because it's almost a similar situation where these two huge stars. What are we going to do with them? We're just going to put together super fights. We're going to throw them back in the division. Throw the fish back in the lake, let them swim upstream. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that cast. But a lot of stuff happened. But I think you would agree with me when I say it is good to be back. Good to be on the air and good to be doing a show. 2 weeks, only 2 weeks, but to us it felt like months. We felt like GSP coming back after Carlos Condit, except we didn't get hit with any head kicks, and that's lucky because we had Cris Cyborg on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's absolutely great to be back, guys. Thank you so much. Anyone who listened, thank you so much. And I just want to take a second to say, thank you so much to all the people who bring the support. On Twitter, on Facebook, we've been getting messages and things like that. And a lot of people are sometimes surprised, like, oh, thanks for responding. It's like, well, of course we're going to respond, man. We're, at the end of the day, we're big fans of MMA. We love to talk MMA. We're not some snobby assholes. By all means, if you want to send us a message, if you want to tweet us, we're always down for a chat, a bit of chewing the fat. And we'll be back next week. We can't tell you who we got on the show, but suffice it to say, we've got some big names coming, and we've got some sexy video interviews coming up. Like we said earlier, don't forget, Everything MMA is bringing down some fighters down to Australia, Melbourne, and Sydney, 15th of October and 16th of October in Melbourne. There's a seminar at Hammer's Gym. If you're in Melbourne and you're around the Blackburn area, in fact, most people know Hammer's Gym, that's going to be the 15th of October. 16th of October, there's going to be an appearance at the MMA Fight Store, new location. It's still in the city, but it's just down the road, and there's going to be a dinner at the Melbourne Central Hotel. You've got Alexander Gustafsson, Mark Hunt, Kyle Noak, and Cowboy Cerrone. I mean, if that's not the most awesome dinner party, then I don't know what is.
Yeah, that's right. No, that's an amazing dinner party right there. And all the crazy units over in Sydney listening right now, 18th and 19th of October, they'll be there for the Fitness Expo, which is happening at the Sydney Showgrounds, Olympic Park. There'll be seminars, appearances, open workouts, and D&Ms possibly if you go to this dinner and have a few drinks with them. And yeah, like Casper said, MMA Fight Store is the prime store, when it comes to MMA apparel here in Melbourne. They actually moved to Shop 1/440 Elizabeth Street, and you guys can give them a call on 0396504448. I actually got a sneaky new gi from there recently, Cass. The guys are very helpful, and even let me try it on in the change rooms and do some jumps and some squats to make sure I look good in it. So you guys can check them out at www.mmafightstore.com.au. Those fight appearances are always awesome. And www.everythingmma.com.au for information on ticketing and what's happening with the fellas. I mean, if you go to this dinner with Mark Hunt, suffice to say, there'll be a lot of food on the table.
More than likely. I mean, yeah. I mean, the dude, like, I've seen videos on his Twitter, and he's always eating burgers. He's having a good time, hanging out with his mates. Some crazy burgers in New Zealand. Ferg burger, Jesus Christ. And if you go to this dinner, you can drink with Cowboy Cerrone, and you can probably eat Vegemite sandwiches with Kyle Noak. And Gustafsson, I mean, I don't know what his deal is, but I mean, I'm sure he's got interesting dinner habits.
Yeah, talk hockey with him, or what do they do over there in Sweden?
Cheese.
Yeah, a cheese platter with Gustafsson, a delicious fried chicken bowl with Hunt, Vegemite sandwiches with Noak, and Cowboy Cerrone, of course, that Bud Light beer. That's the one that he drinks? No.
Budweiser,
he drinks
I think.
Budweiser, that's right.
That's going to be his main meal. Yeah, so for all the information, guys, check out those websites. And for anything else, Submission Radio, you can always catch us on Twitter at SubmissionAUS, or check out our YouTube channel, Submission Radio AU. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to hit the like button. We've got a ton more stuff coming. Don't forget, Technique of the Week. Technique comes out every single Wednesday. This one is going to be a good one. Just a little preview. It's going to be how to catch a kick and then turn it into an ankle lock. So if anybody ever kicks you, you can cacao on the ground, then turn into an ankle lock. And we got a whole bunch of Sambo stuff coming out. We've also got some techniques coming up with Kit Dale. They are all loaded, and we're sitting on a lot of footage at the moment. So every single Wednesday, Technique of the Week. But other than that, man, we'll be back next week with a whole bunch of guests. Any last words to the fans, Menace?
Guys, remember, if it ain't Submission Radio, it ain't a fun pants party.
That's
all I have, guys.
See you next week.